Hi, Don Catalano here with your iOpt Minute. Let's talk about another dastardly lease clause. One that you need to be very aware of, and your tenant rep and your commercial real estate attorney really have to work hard to mitigate the potential damage. And that's tenant defaults. Now, landlords will like to group the whole lease and every clause in it under tenant defaults. We abhor that. We like to separate out what is a monetary default versus a non-monetary default, because tenant defaults give the landlords a lot of ability to collect do, re, mi from you. The tenant default clause usually says that if the tenant defaults, let's underline that word, defaults on this lease. And on this lease means every clause in that lease. It could be something as silly as the number of parking spaces or some minuscule thing that you might overlook. Then the landlord, after their proper notice period, and you have to negotiate what that notice period is, you want a written notice, and you want as much time as possible to cure that default. I would recommend 30 days. After that time, the landlord can call the whole lease in default. Now, in my mind, and when I'm coaching my clients, advising them, there's a big difference between being late with the rent, which is understandable that the landlord would want to call the lease in default and would want to start their legal protections to collect the rent, and something that's minor, that is not worth calling the whole lease null and void, and they're going to go after you not just for that 1 month's rent payment, but they're going to go after you for the balance. Most of the time, it's accelerated rent for the rest of the lease term. And you really don't want to be in that situation. Now, with the landlord win in court, depends on your jurisdiction. If it's written that way in the lease, they have a leg up, and depending on the jurisdiction. But could you imagine some minor default that is perhaps solvable, negotiable between you and the landlord, gets escalated to the whole lease being in default, and now the landlord, let's say you got 3 years left in the lease, can say, guess what? Pay me, get out of the space and pay me the last 3 years of rent. Yep, because it was poorly drafted. You didn't have a great tenant rep representing you. Maybe use the landlord's broker. Duh, don't do that. Or, yeah, you didn't have a great commercial real estate attorney working with your tenant rep to protect you. So, tenant default, very important clause, like every clause in the lease. But I mean, there's some clauses that are just like, wow, red lights going on. So this has been Don Catalano. If you need to talk about this or any of the other ways that we can help you, of course, you would need to involve your commercial real estate attorney. We'd be glad to work with them. But we're here to help. But Don Catalano for this iOptimize Minute, signing out, and have a great day.